right, hey everybody, welcome to the Food and Tech Meetup. This is the Austin space and place for everything food and tech, so thank you so much for coming out. We've been doing this for about a year now, and we just moved into a new home, Capital Factory. For those that are new to the meetup, we do them in 5 meetup cycles, and those cycles are modeled around the food life cycle. So you have obviously production, processing, distribution, consumption, and then obviously, from the plate back to the ground. And so that's kind of how we schedule that. Tonight we're going to be talking about, growing, so production, growing startups. One thing I like to do is always, I like this number right here. I like seeing people join the meetup. So thank you so much for everyone who joined the meetup and RSVP by the meetup. I know we had some other Facebook and Eventbrite and those sorts of things, but it's always great to see members actually join the meetup group, because there's actually a directory of members, so you can actually search for that person that you met, that connection that you made if you didn't get their card. So it's really, really, really cool. So since our last meetup, we've had 43 new people join. So I'm just kind of curious, whose first time is it to the Food and Tech Meetup? Oh, wow. Maybe you guys are the 43. That's good. I don't have a good retention. That's good. Welcome to Capital Factory. Let's start off there by thanking our sponsor, Capital Factory. They are a really, really wonderful organization to help incubate the tech scene. They mostly focus on internet-based startups, so a lot of the companies you'll see have some sort of relationship to Capital Factory in some way or form. Some of them had to run out. Those neophytes, lady. I don't want our brigadeiros to go away. They're so delicious. So thank you again to Capital Factory. Anyone here from who actually works at Capital Factory? Well, I guess I meant Capital Factory, not people, not startups. But I guess Ashley's back there. We'll have to say thank you to Ashley. She's staying late for us. So thank you, Ashley. Who the heck am I? My name's Asiago online. My real name's Daniel Herron. I've the last 6 years since I moved to Austin, Texas. I've really kind of seen the ecosystem, the food and tech ecosystem transform. So I pretty much worked in part tech, part food, part tech, and I just realized there's so much activity going on, but there's no program or platform really trying to bring it all together and really kind of show the beauty of it all going on. And so last year during South by Southwest, they had a little cocktail hour, and no, we need something that actually adds value to startups more than just drinks. Drinks are good. I'm not trying to say that drinks are bad, but something where we can create a community and a space where these startups can get crucial feedback to kind of advance their startups. So be brutal on these 5 startups that showed up tonight. Go up there and be like, yo, I really like your product, but this sucks, right? Because it's better to hear from a friend in the community than it is on the street where you're not going to get really authentic feedback. So that's kind of the space that we're trying to create here. I'd also like to thank Instacart. Not only are they going to be on the panel, but we did a really, really cool experiment. I kind of challenged Chad. Chad's is the new GM of Instacart Texas. And I was challenging him in the sense welcome to Instacart, welcome to Austin. And now, so you say you can deliver in under an hour, so let's see if it actually gets delivered. And so he had, I think it was just less than an hour ago, you ordered some desserts, some cookies and whatnot, and they're actually here. So they're right back there. So that was really, really, really quick. So that's pretty cool. So feel free to have some dessert now, later. Just don't take them all. I know some people have.
There's also gluten-free options.
And there's gluten-free options. Thank you for being considerate to those folks. That's great. Opportunities and updates. So if you guys ever come across opportunities that you want to share with the community, feel free to let me know. Or you can do it on our new Facebook group. So we have an Austin Food and Entrepreneurs Facebook group. Whoa, I'm dyslexic. So you can check that out on that website. You can also get to it from the Food Tech ATX. There's a little Facebook icon. This is a really great platform. I get so many email requests from people like, hey, my Kickstarter, hey, my event, hey, this thing, this really cool resource. And I'm just just go put it on the Facebook group. Just go put it on the Facebook group. So it's a really good space to join as well. This is our Food for feedback. So this is what all these folks are doing is they have demo tables. We call them Food for Feedback. And the reason being is that usually, not always, some of the startups will actually provide some food, and you'll give them some crucial feedback. That's more of the foodie startups. In this case, we're dealing with a lot of techie startups. So they have all laptops and they want you to try out their app and all that sort of stuff. But give them your feedback. And what we're going to start off with, I'm going to let Jesse, our moderator, take it from here. Is we're going to do something new because we're at Capital Factory and this is really popular in the startup scene. And these are, fast pitches, right? These are the elevator pitch. These are the things where you have 30 seconds in an elevator with a VC to capture his or her attention. What are you going to say that, turns Barocas on and actually want to give you his or her card and follow up later? And so what we're going to have is we're going to go in order. I'll call them up. We're going to have each startup come up and do 1-minute pitches about their startup. And then we're going to have the mentor panel give quick feedback. We're looking for, I don't even know what you guys do. I didn't get it. You know what I mean? Because that's not good if they don't get it really quickly. And then one thing for the startup tables is to make a request, right? Too many entrepreneurs will say, hey, look at what I made. Hey, look at what I made. And they don't ever actually say, hey, look at what I made and give me some money, right? Or buy my product or sign up now, a call to action. And so this is a really, really cool collaborative community here. And I've seen some really cool things happen where someone made a request to the Facebook group or the email list, and then they actually found the resources that they needed. So think about when you're coming up here, what is my one specific request? Try to make it specific, not just like, I need marketing help. And you'll be like, no, I need a Twitter API developer, right? Because then that guy who actually is a Twitter API developer is going to be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go talk to Jay over at Goodie Bag because I can help. So that's the request, a very specific request. With that, let's go start with Alex from Demand Food.
Yeah,
Come
so
on.
just walk up here.
Yeah, just give him a round of applause.
My name is Alex. I'm the co-founder of Demand Food. For those who haven't had dinner yet, Demand Food, imagine pulling out your phone, going to demandfood.com and seeing 2 healthy meal options, 1 meat, 1 vegetarian. You tap on the one that you want, you put it back in your pocket, and within 10 minutes, the food is there. The best part is that it's $10 for meal, delivery, tax, and tip. We started last year. We're only doing dinner. We're only testing dinner Monday through Thursdays right now. So yeah, if you guys haven't tried it, please give it a try and please give me feedback. I'm constantly looking to improve the product, and so yeah, demandfood.com. Check it out.
Cool. Let's give him a hand.
All right, quick feedback. Go for it. So what makes your product unique? So it's $10. So there's a price point, but like, what makes your food better than a Chipotle delivery or a Jimmy John's delivery?
So before we go on, we're going to do a couple quick rules here because we've how this is set up. Sometimes it gets real long. So when you guys can ask questions or you can make comments or whatever, but you're not allowed to answer. Okay. So this will just be questions that somebody is asking that you have to put in the back of your head and say, okay, this is why you're asking. Okay. So you guys feel free to ask questions, but that way we'll be able to click through it real quickly. So keep going.
Food is something that really appeals to our emotions and our tastes and so on. And I would recommend that you emphasize on the page why the dishes that you're offering are awesome. Why would I want to order it?
My one quick comment, I kind of know about Demand Foods, I kind of know what the service is, but one thing that I always think about is how much food is there? And a lot of the snap kitchens or whatever, I get it, it's so small. I don't know how yours compares, but to even say that it's a healthy meal would get me excited.
Okay, great.
And what do you want?
I want everybody to try it out. Just try it out, and then please email me, alex@demandfood.com, and tell me what you like about it and what you hate about it. So I'm just trying to get it better.
Hey, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Next up, we've got Goodie Bag. Who's coming up? Jay's coming up. Wonderful.
So guys, I'm Jake Shaw, I'm the CEO of Goodie Bag, and basically what we've done is we've created a website for offices that allows them to order food directly from restaurants and caterers. Now we're specifically targeting office managers who have to order for large groups of people on a very frequent basis. The pain point is really bad for these guys. If you do have to order for large groups on a regular basis, you have to worry about finding a restaurant, dietary restrictions, delivery instructions every time you pick up the phone, accounting at the end of the month when you have to find your receipt. So these are the types of things that we're solving for these office managers. Now, one important thing to note about us is that we're not a delivery service. So orders that come in through our site is delivered either by the restaurant which is about 60% of our orders, or a third-party delivery service will take care of it. So the fact that we're not handling the delivery allows us to scale efficiently and also very, very fast. We're just in Austin right now with a little over 200 companies that are using us. We just launched in Houston, and in a couple months we're going to be launching in Seattle as well. Thanks.
Feedback.
Yeah, so I actually think it could be a huge market, but the question for admins is, or for people at offices is there a discount that basically coming through you with that volume gets to pass on to them? Can I get a better value as opposed to just having a more efficient service?
We modify the pitch a little bit to make it again emotional and understanding the pain of the admin. So it's something that they go through, and you can paint a very vivid picture of what the pain point is for them by telling a little story or something, and then solving it through video.
I'd piggyback up that. I would say anytime there's a story and there's like a person and something around it, that always makes it much more interesting. Like the story could be the office manager that's having a headache or whatever.
What's your barrier to competition?
What's that?
We can't do questions from everybody in the audience right now, but I don't want to be rude, but
That's okay. Yeah, it's my first time.
Yeah, any quick, what do you want?
We are at 13 people right now. We're currently hiring for customer support people and also sales, both office and restaurant. So I don't know if you guys yourself are interested or know anybody that might be. We're looking for someone. Thank you.
Rio Bites.
So Rio Bites, their kids called and said, "Hey, we want you to come home, Mama." So Mama went home. But if you got a chance, you can also find them on Loop and Ty's website. They have a partnership with them. But they were the ones with those delicious Brazilian brigadeiros, little chocolate ball things. They're so good. So be sure to check them out at realbites.com. And you can also talk to Loop and Ty as well, and they can tell you all about it. So move on to Taste Bud.
Okay, my name is Marcelo Vieira. I'm the CEO and founder of Taste Bud. So Taste Bud is a marketplace where we match hungry customers looking for deals on food right now with restaurants that have excess capacity, particularly during off-peak hours. They have empty tables. We focus on the one demographic, and this is a test, that is always hungry, always low in cash, and have flexible schedules. Any guesses? Students. There you go. We focus on students. So for the students, it's a way for them to discover restaurants and deals right now. Prices fluctuate and the dynamic marketplace goes up and down. And for the restaurant, it becomes an inventory management tool where they can create deals in less than a minute and publish them. So a rainy day special and things like that. We're live here in Austin. My one request, and we're growing leaps and bounds week over week. We're about to launch in other campuses in the fall. My one request is try it out. We have $5 off coupons over here. So if you come up, we send you an email and you can get $5 off of your 30 to 40 to 50% off meal. And we're looking for a designer. If there's any designers in the house.
Be more specific. What kind of designer?
Mobile and web.
Mobile.
Yep.
Good.
Cool.
That was great. The only thing I would say is how much more money can a restaurant make by working with you guys? You mentioned how much the consumer can save.
Right.
So
some of the
Don't answer the questions. I don't mean rude, but this will make it go a lot more quickly. Go ahead.
The other thing, can you talk the restaurants into picking a day or a time of day where they will globally have this deal available? Because when I used to live in New York, restaurants were very successful in picking like 2 days in 1 week of the year where like they basically opened their doors for like half price fare. And that allowed everyone to really get exposed to those restaurants and kind of come down to the white table they weren't able to afford. So it could be the huge.
Should I answer that or no?
So one of the things about the feedback thing is if it's not obvious enough, then maybe that's feedback of how you can change your presence online or whatnot. And also, if you can remember and hold on to those, I would encourage you all to, when you're getting feedback, to write it down. It's great follow-up conversation as well. So you're like, hey, let's talk about that over coffee, that kind of stuff. So
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last but not least, we've got Loop and Ty. Come on down.
Next time I'll send you a high-res logo.
Yeah, sorry. I had 2 minutes to build the presentation. I apologize.
I'm Michaela, and I'm with Loop and Tie, and what we've done is we have simplified gifting to make it fun and easy for everyone. And so we've curated all these artisan crafted gifts and put them into a marketplace online. You send a gift via email to your employees, to your clients, and mostly what we focus on is, the bulk gifting. Apartment complexes use us for resident move-in gifts, so to send all their residents move-in gifts, lease renewals, and essentially with us, you're giving the gift of choice. So we have the artisan gifts and the artisan food. The recipient gets to choose the gift they want. They enter their own shipping information. And with our technology, it's all drop shipped. So we contact the supplier, have them fulfill it, and send it that way. We tie in social media, a thank you note. Because we've all received the gift baskets that you don't want or you toss away. And gift cards that just stay in your wallet and you never end up using. So with Loop and Tie, you send the gift of choice.
Very cool.
With a gift, there's an emotion, right? When people get a gift or they give a gift, there's typically an emotion. Either you want someone to have that emotion, or it's a new resident in an apartment, you want to feel like welcomed. And so I would say that how can you guys tell that story when you're not delivering and help keep that as part of your brand would be a huge piece.
You started by talking about local goods and then ended up by talking about the choice. I would almost flip it around. Explain why choice is important when people are receiving the gift, and then kind of cement it at the end by saying that the goods are local.
My quick thought is corporate gifting has obviously been around for a long time, and I kind of want to know what's special about it. And you hit on a couple of points, but I thought I've heard this from other companies, and I'm sure there are special things, but to maybe accentuate what those things are.
Great. Thanks.
What do you want?
Oh, my request would be, I guess everyone to send your friends and family a gift and kind of get their feedback on the experience. And also, if you're a supplier and you have a really cool product and really good food, we'd be more than happy to feature you guys on Loop and Tie.
Yeah, that's good. Now, if any of the startups have like promo links or whatever, we can get those up on, for the community, we can get those up on the Meetup later. So so that concludes our little fast pitch. So let's give them a round of applause for everyone. So before we jump into the mentor panel, I always forget to say these things, and I actually remembered this time, but there is a little water dispenser back there if you're thirsty, and then right around the corner there's the restrooms, and you can use the Capital Factory guest Wi-Fi if you want to tweet or any of that sort of stuff. And with that, we're going to jump into the mentor. If you can't hear, there's some space over here. You're welcome to squeeze on over, and we'll let Jesse take it from there.
Cool. Okay, thanks everybody for being here. Just for quick expectations, we're going to try to end this at 8. So what I'll do is we'll do some Q&A just between me and these two guys for a little bit, then I'll open it up to everybody. So start to think about some questions as we go along that you can jot down and start asking. And I'll ask for these guys to give a little bit of some quick bios. Before I forget to mention, this meetup I've been coming to it for a while, and it's pretty great. And I've been to lots of meetups, and there's a lot of organization here, so this is a quick plug for Asiago. He's basically a volunteer putting this together. He asks for $5 a year for membership to this, which works out to like 3 cents an hour in time or whatever. So this is a great way to, just to give back a little bit. It's a great thing to come to, and if you can tell people about it, that's great as well. So with that said, let me jump into these guys. Quick background about me. My name is Jesse Vicky. I'm on my second startup. I started a company called Dinner Elf, where we send affordable, friendly cooks into your kitchen to cook dinner for you so that you can spend your time doing something else. But what I really want to do is not talk about these guys, but mention also a plug for tonight's basketball game. So at 8 o'clock is the Duke-Wisconsin game. If anybody doesn't have any allegiances yet, I recommend you root for Duke. I'm a Duke grad. Chet, where did you graduate from? I forgot.
Duke, the business school.
From Duke, right? So Duke. And Manuel has offered to paint his face tonight in blue, Duke blue. and I've asked him just to put it off for a little bit until the very end. So
8:05.
8:05, that's fine. Okay, so after that, let's talk a little bit about you guys. Manuel, who are you?
Okay. I was going to introduce myself. My name is Manuel Rosso, and I'm an entrepreneur here in Austin. I lived in Austin for almost 16 years. And my relationship to the food and tech world, well, I started my career many years ago in the packaged goods, kind of traditional marketing arena, switched over to tech. And then about 5 years ago, I started a company here in town called Food on the Table. Food on the Table is an app that helps you plan what you're going to make for dinner for your family this week based on what your family likes to eat and what's on sale at your favorite grocery store. That app, we sold it to Scripps Networks Interactive, which are the owners of Food Network and Food.com and other digital properties. We sold it about 1.5 years ago, and now I do work for Scripps Networks.
Very cool.
Chad.
Chad Shepler. Started my life as an investment banker in New York, and then quickly got smart and moved to startups. I helped build one in the wine industry, one in the consumer packaged goods, one inside Home Depot, largest home improvement retailer, one in the medical IT space here, mobile medical, and most recently with Instacart, where you can get groceries delivered in about an hour from all the local stores, so H-E-B, Tomlinson's Pet Food, Whole Foods, Costco. So that's me. I also have an investment company where I invest in different things locally, and most recently invested in the Mama Foods restaurant chain. So I do look at food restaurants and food products. So.
So both of you guys have skipped around a little bit from job to job. It sounds like about every 2 or 3 years for you,
right.
And you've skipped around a fair bit. So talk to me about moving from company to company and why you do it, and what are you looking for moving around?
Well, I used to think it was unique to me, but as you meet more people like you, I think it's, and Manuel probably can attest to this, it seems to be the entrepreneurial mindset. If you're not building your own thing, you love to go help people build that. There seems to be a horizon with that, about 24 to 36 months of really the ramp-up period, the excitement, the challenge intellectually and analytically for that first few years to get it off the ground, and kind of when it's running or when it's moving kind of at plane, you're ready for the next challenge. And that could be inside the same company, but a lot of times it happens to be the next new adventure.
For me, I wish I could tell such an awesome story, but I get very easily bored. Maybe and it's really interesting that the longest job that I've had was Food on the Table, the company that I started from scratch and took it all the way through exit. And that is because that was mine, and there was a lot of work to do, and it was always entertaining, and the job was never the same. But my wife has always told me that whenever I start a job, I'm usually very, very challenging, trying to understand it, and I'm doing it anew. And the moment she starts seeing more of me at home, she starts rumoring, she starts talking to my children and to friends, like, yeah, he's about to switch jobs. She knows it before I do. So I get very easily bored, and I'm always looking for something entertaining. I have never found anything as fun as doing something entrepreneurial to keep me really challenged and moving forward. That's why I like doing it.
And we're talking about growing startups. So talk to me a little bit about the differences of being involved in a startup when it's small versus larger. So you came in to Instacart, obviously, as the train is already chugging along. So talk to me about small companies, big companies, and you can talk a little bit about Food on the Table versus being a bigger company as well.
Yeah, so I actually have had an interesting juxtaposition in the last 5 years, right? So I went from Home Depot, which has unlimited resources, and wanted to start a business inside of it, and was really struggling to start a new service business inside Home Depot because they're not a startup anymore. They don't know how to do it culturally. And when I left to come to a company here in town that's in the mobile medical space, they had a passionate founder team of physicians, but very, very limited resources. And now at Instacart, obviously the resources aren't an issue at this point, but we're really struggling with scale. How can you scale efficiently, do it operationally, and still give that wow service? And it's easy to do when you got 50 orders a day, but not when you got 700, 800, 1,000. And how can you do that across 60, 70, 80 cities and still maintain it? So, really it's, if you're small, it's resource, right? You gotta have passion, you need resources, and if you've got the resources and you're scaling, can you do that? And can you still deliver that same wow service, that same product, to 50,000 people as opposed to 500?
Something, to me, the biggest difference between a smaller company and a bigger company has to do with the speed of execution and the ability to align your teams to move fast and drive change in the organization. So when you have a startup with whether it's 5 employees or 50 employees, it is so easy to align people. You can sit them in a room like this and everybody knows what everybody else is working on and things move very, very, very fast. When you're obviously in a bigger company, it's much, much more difficult to get everybody aligned. And personally, the way I've seen it is by measuring the amount of time that I spend doing one activity versus the other. And those activities are executing, getting your hands dirty, building a model, talking to somebody, doing a sales call, doing whatever you need to do, versus aligning the organization to do what you need to do. And invariably, the bigger the company is and the more senior you are, the higher the percentage of your time that is spent just aligning everybody else in the organization to do the work instead of actually doing the work. So it's really interesting when I used to work for Dell here in town, and I used my last couple of years at Dell, I used to spend probably 90 to 95% of my time aligning the organization, whether the people that work for me or people that work around me or managing up. When I started working on a startup, I finished up on a Friday, I started working on a startup on Monday in Silicon Valley, and it was 99% of the time doing actual work on that. It's pretty cool, and it's pretty contagious, it's pretty fast. The last year and a half where I've been at Scripps, is there anybody from Scripps here? Great, it is very slow. And I spend a lot of my time there managing the organization and instead of doing the work. I love doing the actual work. I love getting my hands dirty. This is what attracts me to work in startups. And I look forward to engaging.
So, growing startups. So, you have this great idea and you want the world to know. How do you let them know about it? And what kind of advice would you have? And typically the answer is word of mouth. If it's a great company, everybody will come or whatever. But that's only partially true. And the next answer I always hear is Facebook. Get it spread over Facebook. But beyond kind of the word of mouth and Facebook, what kind of advice would you have for somebody that's got the great idea but wants to get the word out to the greater universe?
Let me start on that one. The truth is, if you're building a consumer-facing company, whether it's Instacart or Food on the Table or any of those things, your word of mouth or your ability to drive a Facebook group or any one source of advertising, none of them work. None of them are going to get you to the scale of building a real business. And I can tell you, we had PR and local media coverage and things like that. And if you follow the number of downloads or active users that you get out of any one of those things, you always see the little blip when you get it, and then it goes away. The best way, the only way I think you can build a sustainable source of customers is by exceeding customer expectations and truly delivering on the promise of what you're trying to do. In other words, if you're solving a real problem, you absolutely kick ass in solving that real problem through whatever service or product you're doing, people will talk about you. That's where the real word of mouth comes in. And how fantastic. I don't want to speak for Instacart, but the first time I used Instacart, it was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. It delivers on the promise. It was there within a couple of hours. It's exactly what I wanted. It was like, yes, no wonder this company is having all the success that it has, because it delivers on the promise, and I'm delighted in using the product. That's it. Focus on developing your product, do it right, blow away your customer, and they will talk about your product to others.
No, I mean, Instacart lives on that, and we totally believe in the word of mouth. And that same story, I have a very similar story. The first time I used Instacart, so I mean, you can't get around that. I will say that we're actually, as a company, in a unique position right now where we're testing demand ideas. Not, we don't need it in certain cities, but we're testing to see if we can, and we're finding what you said, which is basically you can spend a lot of money on Facebook and Google advertising. You're going to see small blips, but it's not going to move the ship. It's not going to change the Titanic's direction. It's anecdotal data. What we have seen is if you can find the right partners, draft on them. So like, for instance, in Austin, we partner with Whole Foods. We have an exclusive deal with them. And as soon as our signage went up in the store, and you see the Instacart fridges in the front of the store, 30 to 40% sales bump in those months after following that. So would we have been able to do that with billboards and global advertising and TV? Maybe, but that's drafting off one of your partners. It's really low cost, and it has a huge impact on your core customer base. Because effectively, you're trying to market to the tribe that you want to build, as Instacart at least, as loyal customers. We're not going for net new every time. We don't want net new customers every time. We want a good customer who's loyal and continues to order 10, 15 times, as opposed to someone who does it once, has a wow service, and doesn't have the need for it and never orders again.
One thing I want to add, that doesn't mean that using social media and other things is not effective.
Yeah.
But it's a billion times more effective when people are telling the phenomenal experience that they have with your product than you telling people, oh, use my product.
Let me talk a little bit about pricing. So that's something that is always difficult to figure out where you price your product. Instacart, I think, is interesting because there's the delivery fee, but then obviously the prices that you charge aren't always exactly the same prices that are in the grocery store. For food on the table, I think,
Free.
but at the time, wasn't it like it's a monthly and you paid per month or something like that?
No. We had a product that was a meal plan that you could purchase, but the 99% of our business is a free business.
So how did you make your money?
Well, actually, the business model for food on the table, which is what we're deploying, which is Scripts right now, is influencing what consumers are picking up on the shelf at the store is a very valuable thing. So it's a form of advertising, but it's closer to transactional forms of advertising instead of just brand building. So if I can influence a brand that somebody's picking on the shelf, that is something that is very, very valuable. I'm sure you guys know a thing or two about that. I'm probably working on that. Yes, so create great value, create it for the consumer, create great traction with the consumer so you can demonstrate to advertisers, look what we're doing, we can influence what consumers are buying. Therefore, that's worth a lot.
Any thoughts on pricing with you?
Well, we touched on that piece for a second because we're Instacart obviously is doing very similar things. And if you look at the consumer packaged brands in digital and food, they're like 50 years behind everything else. There's never really been, H-E-B and Whole Foods and these guys never really had that great of an online sales presence. So, understanding a customer puts $100 worth of stuff in their basket and they ordered hot dogs and hot dog buns, why didn't they order, our organic mustard? And now you can tell them, like, based on the consumer behavior and what else is in the basket, what's driving that customer. So we are also working with consumer packaged brands doing that same stuff. And for food tech startups, it's an open field right now where there's not a lot of data, and the brands are looking for that next level of consumer knowledge. Pricing is a tricky subject for us. True, when Instacart first started, it had a markup. It wasn't exactly the same price as it's on the shelf. Obviously, we have to pay for the service. But what we realized during that was there is a subset of consumers that will pay that slightly elevated price to get that kind of service. Then we also found that we can drive net new business to those retailers or those grocery stores. And we got them to work with us on basically help paying for the program. And when we kind of lowered our prices down to parity with the stores, we saw our volume quadruple. So for us, I think people are price sensitive, and if you price in the high end of the market, you have to deliver a wow service for that particular subgroup. If you want to go to scale and you want to expand, you're going to have to find the best value, and you're going to have to compete with other services. In our case, Favor and everyone that can basically deliver to you within an hour and do that at really low cost. So,
let me ask one more question, then you guys can think of some on your own. Just like when these guys came up and did their pitches, is there anything that you want from this audience? They're all staring at you right now. Is there anything that can be helpful for you that's a real specific ask?
Well, for me personally, one of the things that I'm dedicated the last few months and I want to do for the rest of this year is reach out and help out this community. So there's some perspective on things that I've done. So my only ask, if you think I can be of any help to you, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll be happy to help.
Let me put a quick plug in for him. So I started my business a number of months ago and shot an email over to him, and he was nice enough to meet me for coffee and talk about it. So I think Austin's a great place for that, and the thing that I've learned is you just have to ask. So if there are people that you want to talk to, ask them and they'll talk to you.
For Instacart, honestly, it's obviously order Instacart, but give us feedback. So Jesse gave me an Instacart bag when I showed up, and it's got a receipt in there. And his story to that was his wife ordered Instacart yesterday, and the bag showed up with a receipt and some trash in it that's not from his order. And so as a consumer, quality control is very important to us. That seems like a really stupid problem to have. But we don't hear that stuff. It's anecdotal data that's hard to get at for us. And so your wife is less likely to order another time based on that experience. And so order Instacart, try it, give us your feedback, and you have a company and a team that's in the audience that really wants to deliver a wow service, and we want to make sure that you're getting that wow
And
service.
how do we get you feedback?
Right through the app. So as soon as you order, after you order, you can type anything you want, rate it, and actually each item you can say specific things about the items, like my green onions were terrible, my lettuce was wilted, or there was a receipt in the bottom of my bag and it's not for my order.
Cool. Questions?
You raised a very good point, which seems to be two poles of being in the brushstrokes and the big picture, aligning a venture and actually, don't you think it's a balance of, it's great to come from an environment where you're bored aligning people and then you go into the trenches, but you do need a balance of the two, don't you think?
I think it's a very personal decision and what drives you. Don't get me wrong. I mean, for a startup to succeed, you need to have really good strategy and good thinking and good approach and solving problems and differentiating yourself in the market, as you heard from the pitches and everything before. It doesn't mean that you don't do that. It's just that you're constantly doing it, but executing to it, and you don't have to. These muscles that you develop are just different. You're not using them to convince others in your organization to do it your way. You're using them to get usually people outside of the organization to use your product or do whatever. But it's personal and it's a balance, and I find more comfort in the startup environment. But right now I work for a big company. I'm exercising the other muscles.
Other questions?
Yeah, right here. Go ahead. Thanks, Scar. You said you work with Whole Foods.
Yep.
Do you have in your app the database for the inventory so you can make a selection? And another question is, how do you differentiate yourself from paper?
So we do. We have our exclusive partnership with Whole Foods comes with electronic catalogs.
Oh my gosh.
So we get electronic catalogs of all the products, and so that's how we do it with most retailers. Honestly, we're a different service than Favor. Favor's just going to pick it up. All right. We spend a lot of time, money, and energy in building a service, working with our shopper fleet in order to understand what it is to pick a good avocado, and how important it is to pick the right lettuce and the right green onions. And if you've been in Whole Foods lately, you'll know it's kind of a complicated store. And so a lot of the work that we do is the data, right? The catalog. It's not just for consumer; it's for the shopper. We have to have barcode scanners and all these check places that you don't get the wrong product or you don't get the wrong size. You don't get a 12 ounce versus a 16 ounce. So that's how we're different, is we spend a lot of time and energy and love on that piece of it.
Do each of your customers get access to the directory, or?
Yeah, so if you download Instacart right now and you sign up, you can order anything you want from Whole Foods and H-E-B, and it's a digital catalog with product images and weights and prices and sizes.
Can you customize the catalog?
We can, obviously, but not at the customer level. So, each of the different retailers tend to have like a what's popular and featured items, so there's a bit of a customization on that piece. But as a consumer, the only customization that happens on the consumer end is you put in your home zip code, and it will limit the retailers that are available to you based on your geolocation.
Comments about Instacart. Actually, I just used it on the weekend, and I loved it because I really don't like going to the supermarket. And but two concerns. One, a friend of mine told me the prices are 22% higher than the supermarket. So I do the math, and I realized that percentage is $35 for my shop. So I estimated how much is going to be the cost of the Uber to pick me up and so on. So it would probably be, I don't know, around $10 or maybe less. Mm-hmm. So then I thought, maybe Uber would be the best option next time, and I will do my shop just by myself. So careful about the pricing,
yep.
Right? So we can continue using it. And there should be an option in the app that in case they don't find the product, then select the price, the similar pricing or the size pricing, because they did find 8 products of mine. So the girl called me several times just to tell me so you want this and that, and I asked for the 8 ounces and she was offering me the 16 ounces. So of course I don't want the 16. So I don't know. So you can avoid the time of the calling and make it more I can choose based on price or.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that feedback. So I'd be interested to show you something after this. So we just released a feature here in Austin that's kind of in beta, which is the second part of what you said, which is we call it global replacements.
Okay.
So when you check out on Instacart, you have 17 items in your basket and you check out, it will put likely replacements. We have an algorithm that runs and says almost every time someone orders something like this, either HEB is out of it or there's a problem with it, and so what's a likely replacement, and it will kind of guide you. But the newest version of it has what we call global settings, which is tell me about yourself. Or I'm gluten-free, I don't like wheat products, I'm price sensitive, I'm not price sensitive, and that can help our shoppers at the shelf make a better selection for you if you don't want to be called, or have a better choice for you when they do call you, right? Because if you had said in that global that you're price sensitive, when they call, they would hopefully have options that are within your price range or similar price range as opposed to twice the size, right?
Yeah.
And the price thing, absolutely, as a consumer, I totally get it. And unfortunately, when the way Instacart started, they had to prove first before they can make a partnership. So with Whole Foods, you pay the price on the shelf, more or less, right? HEB, we just signed a deal, so it will be that way in 2 to 3 weeks. And so but it took track record. We had to prove to those retailers that we could deliver the service at scale and delight customers. And so what they heard resoundingly was people love the service, it's a little expensive. And so with that markup. So what we were able to do was work with them and have it where it's basically the same price on the shelf is what you'll pay. And the service is really what we're doing is providing that wow service.
As a quick feedback on that, if you were able to get it to the same prices on the shelf, and you could have the receipt in the bag from that shopping experience, that would blow me away as a consumer. So I don't know if you can ever get to that point, but that would be like if I could and I could compare, that would be fantastic.
I don't mean to keep pushing more questions over to Instacart. You're free to answer this as well, but it is a little interesting that I was actually the product manager of the mobile team at Whole Foods when you guys formed that partnership. So I know a little bit about some of the conversations inside the store, right? And one of the things that they had decided, partly for efficiency, partly for customer service, partly for a lot of reasons, is to basically keep the Instacart people out of the store. They have their own pickers in the store, right? It's a little different than the relationship you have with other places. You mentioned earlier that one of the important things is to partner well, right? How do you choose those partnerships with respect to being the face of that service to the customer? Do you view your customer, like the end consumer, having the relationship with Whole Foods or with Instacart in this, and how do you manage that and choose where you actually draw those boundaries?
It's easier for Instacart because we are a service company, and so Whole Foods is a great example. I mean, Whole Foods prides themselves. I mean, you have a whole company built on sourcing, delivering amazing product, right? Amazing food, resourced properly, with a great story behind it. And Instacart's just a delivery of that. So when we partner with Whole Foods and we partner with HEB, we're not going in trying to sell a new story. We're just trying to help them deliver that story to customers in the way that they want to receive a product. I mean, behind the scenes with Whole Foods, they realized very quickly and early on in the relationship with their time with Instacart, like, wow, these guys are bringing us net new customers. These are not cannibalizing people who would have just come to the store and it's a busy Saturday. These are people who wouldn't have shopped with us because, frankly, Whole Foods is not locationally based where it's convenient, right? HEB is, right? That's why most of us end up shopping maybe in your local grocery store. Whole Foods tends to be difficult to get to places. And so what they've now seen is we can deliver the product, the wow product that we build and put our life into, right, to a much bigger audience that, for convenience reasons, would have never come to the store. And so, I think we dance a fine line there, right, of branding and partnership. But at the end of the day, the Instacart bag shows up at your door, but when you open it up and put it in your fridge, it's a Whole Foods product, or it's a 365 brand, or whatever it is. So I think that the brand experience with the product doesn't change at all for a consumer, and I think the fact that we delivered it is a wow. But it's quickly forgotten the next day when you go get the GIF out of the pantry, though, when you go to get the prepared foods that you got from Whole Foods.
But just as a quick follow-on, but I asked for a very specific reason. I used to work at product design. We did a lot of work for AT&T. AT&T was frightened of the fact of becoming known as sort of a dumb pipe, forgotten the day after, right? You want to sell the Whole Food story or whatever the store is. How do you maintain that though? Like, how much of your own story do you tell in that so that you're not just completely gone? Because as soon as you're a dumb pipe, you're replaced with favor as soon as they ratchet up their scale.
That's a good question. I don't think it's a question that we constantly ask ourselves that we will never stop asking, right? And so I'll give you some anecdotal information. So obviously we realized very, very early, right? If we're going to deliver a wow service, we have to be able to do it at scale to make money, in order to be profitable. So we spent a lot of time in the last 6 months driving efficiency through how our shoppers shop the store, how we get electronic data, how we do replacements, everything, in order to still deliver that service and do it at cost effectively. So, I think if you look at what we're doing and you look at Favor, or anyone that's in this space, there's a huge learning curve. One is having exclusive relationships. Two is having great electronic content. Because as soon as you start trying to do it yourself, like if Favor's pulling, trying to put together a menu for you to buy from, you have inherently tons of risk. Prices are wrong, the product's discontinued, you don't have control over it. So we just keep going deeper and deeper into the relationships to electronically match up and get the data we need, but also to get the delivery efficiencies and the shopping efficiencies in order to give you a great $3.99 service. Because we know customers don't want to pay $30 for delivery. They want to pay $3 or $4.
Any questions in the back, maybe? I see a lot of really cool Austin food startups. I see the largest bug provider in the world. I see bug crackers. I see edible bio bags back there. I see a really cool app that helps folks. I'm going to butcher it, Ron. But there's a lot of cool startups here, so really take advantage for those in the back. I know it's kind of hard to see. Next time we'll get stools. Is there any questions in the back for these guys that are coming to share their wisdom? Yeah. Stand up so we can see who you are.
Hi, my name is Leah. I'm with Crickers. We make nutrient-dense crackers with cricket flour. So they're sustainable for the planet and they're really good for you.
Food Network on Friday, weren't you?
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for watching. It's a fun experience. So my question for you all, as an entrepreneur with a company doing something very cutting edge and kind of risky that people are, uncertain whether or not to eat bugs in the first place. How do you convince your customers to sort of take a leap to try your product and switch, traditional habits that they've just adhered to for a long time? Some best practices.
I can actually comment on this real quickly. The service that I'm starting sends people into your home and cooks for you. And some of the feedback we get is, oh my gosh, that's so scary. Somebody's coming into my house. And we found that the best way to get somebody comfortable with that is to make a parallel of something in their head that they're already comfortable with. So I always make the analogy of a cleaning service. And they go, oh, that's right, I have a cleaning service. I'm not scared anymore. So if you can try to think about any parallels to crickets, I don't know what parallel is, but some type of parallel that's just like a weird thing to eat or a weird thing that other people eat that people do, now it's not so foreign. It's like some parallel you have to have.
Changing consumer habits is by far one of the most difficult things that we can do, especially when you want to do something completely different than what they've done before. And one of those things that I heard in entrepreneurship many, many years ago that applies very well here is that when you're doing a startup, your product should always be twice as good for half the price. If you can meet that equation, then you're onto something, right? That's when people latch on. And I know it's very difficult and it's too general, insane, and so on, but those are the type of things that we're looking for when we're talking about our startups, that you are going to go to somebody and say, wow, I can save you an inordinate amount of money. I can save you an inordinate amount of time. I can make the quality where you're doing much better and so on. And in some of the stuff that I heard related to the crickets and so on is the environmental, every time I've seen something about the environmental impact of the production of protein versus animal protein, it's such a drastic difference that, wow, it's 10 times as good for the environment, which is something that calls people's attention. So I would look for things like that what you demonstrated to the consumer. I'm not asking you to eat whole crickets for breakfast every morning. It's a way that you can continue eating the way that you do, but we're doing these things with the environment and so on, things like that. You're always going to find early adopters on it. You're always going to find some people that understand that message better than others. But if you cannot get the people, say, that are passionate about these things to convert to your product, when you appeal to this type of messaging, then will be very difficult to get to everybody else. You talked about it. You want your tribe of people that are really, really like your product. Those are always going to be your evangelists, or the ones that are going to go and use our word of mouth. We'll pursue then of the value proposition you have in your product, which group of people that resonates best with, and then use those people to serve as your base for food on.
Can we make a comment? Or?
Sure.
Sure.
I think, assuming it tastes good, I would get fun and humor in it. Like, if you look at Geico, or Geico or whatever, the humor and fun factor can balance the grossness, and the person might feel. No, I mean. Sure.
We have a pretty fun Kickstarter video out right now. It's basically us as old ladies, space grandmas in the future, so that's fun. Check out the Kickstarter.
You might see it on the Food Tech ETX Facebook group.
Because if you see Calvin and Hobbes, his mother would tell him that it's his gross food, that's spinach, and he would eat it.
So we'll take one more burning question if there's anyone. Here's your opportunity to talk with one of our local entrepreneurs who actually got his business from the ground acquired. If you're shy, don't be. You're an entrepreneur now. If not, well, of course, we'll have follow-up. Is there anyone? Last question? Go ahead.
Me? Yep. Okay.
You're it.
For you, Manuel. If you can do a flashback by the moment that you were about to launch your business, what was the biggest challenge? Was it like funding? Was it getting the freaking end user to try your app or whatever you had? What was it?
It's an interesting question, because the moment you're getting ready to take that leap as an entrepreneur, you say, "This, I'm going to make a commitment to it," you're not thinking of absolutely any of the negatives. You're only focused on how great this is going to be and the vision that you have, and everything else is a blur, and you ignore it. Which I think is one of the potentially dangerous, but one of the great qualities of entrepreneurs, which we tend to ignore all the things that can go wrong, and we focus on the things that can go right, and we go head first on those. So at that very moment, I was very excited. I was going forward, and things were, I was looking forward to how great it was going to be. In hindsight, when I look about the things that I should have been worried about, you can read those from practically any startup you've seen out there. And I would tell you, maybe if you're doing a consumer-based startup, for me, the three biggest lessons that I've learned as an entrepreneur during my time at Food on the Table is: one, customer acquisition is by far the most difficult thing you can do in a consumer-facing startup. It's very difficult. It takes a lot of time to figure out. And even when you get different levels of success, it can be very, very difficult to do. Two, becoming a salesperson, even when you are an entrepreneur focused on something that is consumer focused, is essential for your success. Can't be shy, like you said. And I've always, all of my career, over 20 years of experience in all sorts of jobs and companies and so on, a lot of people think that I'm an extrovert, but I'm actually very introverted. And I chose consumer-facing products. People laugh when I say I'm an introvert, but I am. I chose consumer-facing products and packaged goods and things like that because sometimes you can hide behind the marketing. You can hide behind all the things that you don't have to face a consumer. But the reality is that once you're an entrepreneur, all of that has to go away. And you have to learn the skills and all the tools that a enterprise salesperson does. And that's how you raise money, that's how you recruit people into your company, that's how you convince people of the value of your product and so on. So that was really, really important that I had to learn. And the third one that goes very closely tied to that one is your company from the day one, from the moment you launch it, is for sale, constantly for sale. An opportunity for exit can come at any moment in your business. And most of us will tend to believe well, unless you're offering me $1 billion and I'm going to sell my business. But the truth is, the opportunity for selling can come at any moment. Unless you have a term sheet in hand for whatever amount of money they're going to offer you for the business, you really don't have, you're not selling the company yet. And even at that moment, you have an opportunity of declining that and going forward. But it is so difficult, and I went through the process of exiting the business and being acquired. There's so many things that need to happen between somebody has shown interest in your business and actually getting that term sheet, that piece of paper that is a commitment to buy, that you should always be selling. You should always be open to the opportunity if somebody approaches you. Go through the process, have the conversation, because you can't sell unless you have that piece of paper. But if you have that piece of paper, you might choose not to sell.
One last life lesson there, Chad, since joining 2 months ago?
Well, I mean, this is probably not from Instacart, from my other startup days. It sounds very cliche, but if you can start a company by scratching your own itch, you can be, it's much easier to be that salesperson naturally, to tell that story. I've worked for guys who were smart and had great ideas, and then I've worked for guys who are super passionate and the users of their products. And it's that passion and that kind of, it gets you through the dark moments and the curves and the changes and ultimately I think that, you know, most of the time when you dig into successful startups, that was at its core DNA at the founding, either with all the founders or multiple founders. So whatever you can, be the user of your product, scratching your own itch, and I think it's a lot easier to become the product, become the salesperson, and become absolutely passionate about it. So.
All right, round of applause. Great. Okay, so that wraps it up. Just another quick plug for the game tonight. Root for Duke. They can use any support that you can give them. Thank you. And now we can mingle. Thanks.
So let me just mention one quick thing. Feel free if you guys want to get up. But what's next? So again, this is our first meetup here at Capital Factory, but we've got some really cool meetups. So join the meetup group, foodtechatx.com, and come check out some of these really cool meetups that we're going to have soon. As Justin mentioned earlier, he's telling me you gotta sell. Well, it's not super selling. It's really just I need to pay for meetup.com. They changed their pricing plan. Now it's like really expensive the more members you have. And so I'm asking for $5 a year if you can. If you can't, don't feel neglected. Feel free to come. But we definitely, it helps support with some of the admin stuff. And my request as the guy who helped organize all this is give me feedback. Tell me what you guys want to see. Go on the meetup and leave your feedback. If it's good feedback, put it on there. If it's bad, call me. We'll go get a coffee. You just don't put it online. So that's my request to you guys. So foodtechatx.com, you can check it out. It's the meetup group. And mark your calendars. Our next meetup is going to be right here at Capital Factory. The first Monday of the month, May 4th, we're going to talk about technology in the restaurant industry and how some local startups are kind of disrupting that space. So again, thank you so much, Food Tech ATX, and we'll see you next time.